Back again in the Haven Cafe in Cork City, the Wild Ones Conference is a time for listening, sharing, doing, and being. Welcome to Session 2, called My Rebellion. In Session 1, we honoured our space and being. Session 2 honours our rage and discusses solutions for the social issues that exist around us. We welcome Margaret O'Regan and Kel Menton. They will share a bit about themselves and discuss from 2 prompts. What is the most important conversation to have now, and what do they envision for the future? Let's begin.
My name is Margaret O'Regan. I'm a poet. I'm also a retired law clerk. I'm in my 70s and I've lived through some horrible government policies in Ireland my whole life. And I've been a political activist for more than half a century by now. And I will continue forever until the day I drop dead. When you look at our past and the way women were treated in Ireland, the Magdalene laundries, no contraception, the women always castigated, men never seemed to be in the picture, though it takes 2 to make babies. And also at workplaces, you did not have equal pay for equal work. If a woman and a man were working alongside each other, the man would always get a higher wage, despite the fact that the wages in general were low anyway, and they still are. And the fight back has to be with both women and men together, fighting together for a decent living. So I think the most recent strike where workers were treated very, very badly is the Debenhams workers. And the film at the moment is doing the rounds. It's going into schools. It's great to see it going into schools, because I have friends who said, oh, that'll never, ever be shown in a secondary school. But it is being shown in community halls, in schools, all over the place. So it's nice to see it travelling around Ireland at the moment, and I think it'll go further than Ireland. The way the guards, in particular the police in Ireland, treated those workers is an eye-opener for anyone that believed that the guards were there to protect us, the ordinary citizen, or anyone living in Ireland. So that's about it for me. So Kel.
Cool. Thank you so much. Yes, I'm Kel. My pronouns are they, them. I'm actually non-binary. I don't talk a lot. I prefer to write because I like to think about what I say, often because I just can't express myself properly. I'm neurodivergent. I have a chronic illness which leaves me in a lot of pain. So I find myself angry pretty much all of the time. And trying to find the energy as well to advocate for myself, and also I think it's important that, even though I've got a bunch of things going on, that I'm advocating for other people as well. And I guess I'm always trying to learn how to do that better. I think writing is the way that I've been doing that. I also work in facilitation, so with teenagers and children, in theatre and creative writing. Lots of it is in desh areas, and then some of it is in association with the libraries, where we would get young queer teenagers to come in and they make their art and they get to publish that. That's been weird in the last year, kind of sneaking young people into a library to make sure that they're not filmed or attacked or verbally abused has been strange, but we've been doing it. So far so good. But yeah, I've known Jo for a while, which has been really lovely, and yeah, I just think everything that she does is wonderful. So I'm excited to be here, if not really nervous. I think anger is a good emotion and it's useful, but also it can be overwhelming, and I'm really hoping I can get through this without crying. But no promises. So yeah, thank you.
So our question is, what do you think is the most needed conversation for this group to have now? That's a big one.
Yeah.
I mean, I think in terms of rebellion, it's like a matter of looking around you and seeing what's missing, what's needed, what isn't there that should be there, what's falling short, and a question then of what do you do about it, and start organising straight away.
Yeah, because I don't think that there's any one issue, and if we solve that everything is going to be okay, and that it is a communal effort, which I struggle with sometimes, where I'm like, no, I have to just fix the world myself. I don't remember spaces like this growing up. I still live in the country, and there's nothing like this. There's no conversation cafe. There's like no kind of conferences where people meet in the community hall, or if they do, it's maybe set dancing, which is like fun, but in terms of like building community in that way, it's not the same. What's missing is a nice question, I think, actually. I like that.
I think as well, in relation to what you said about libraries and sneaking young people into them, well, this very minute while we're speaking, the far right are demonstrating outside the library.
Great.
And since 9 o'clock this morning, my comrades are outside that library to prevent them from going in. And they're going to be there until the last one of the far right is gone. And before this, there was a Palestine march through town.
Yeah.
So they're the kind of things that you look around you and you see, what must we do to support each other. In the previous conversation, it was interesting that they were discussing where they felt they belonged. Well, I don't see belonging as a place. I see it as a class, the working class.
Yeah.
That's where I belong.
Yeah.
I have more in common with the working class in Britain, in the US, in Australia, than I have with the government in Ireland.
Yeah.
So class-based always with me. And that's where I belong, despite the fact that I've lived in the same county my whole life.
Yeah, no, but I think you're right. I think belonging is deeper than just, like, I think place. Sometimes place is important, but I do think a lot of belonging is community, whether that is, like what group of people that you belong to, and then so much of that intersects with other communities, and you end up with other. But yeah, I agree with that. And then what's missing? Just that this is about rebellion and anger and frustration, and I think a lot of the time, obviously I was raised as a girl, and a lot of the time my anger was not okay, and I would have to find a place to quietly express it, if at all. It's difficult to kind of unlearn that. Have you always had a nice relationship with your anger? Has that always been something that's fueled you, or has it been anger? Would you consider rebellion anger?
I would. Certainly anger is a part of it. The rebellion comes from what's right, what is the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And the right thing for our class, not just the right thing like by the church or by the state, because the church and state in this country are oppressive. I was born in 1950 and I grew up in a very stultifying environment. It was closed in, very narrow, no appreciation of any body or any place that was different.
Yeah.
And I rebelled against that when I was very, very young, because I considered I was being put upon and discriminated in my primary school from the age of 4 because I was poor, for no other reason. My father was a labourer, and the nuns that were running the school, and you had no choice. I grew up in Clonakilty, there was just one school for girls. You had no choice but to go to it, and they considered that if your father was a labourer, you could not have a brain. How could you have a brain if your father was a labourer?
Yeah.
No account was taken of a mother or anything else. It was just what money came into the household.
Yeah.
And my father, there were 6 of us, and he was working every day. He was a mill worker, and his boss sat on the board of St. Vincent de Paul, and all that board decided whether we were entitled to free milk or not. Free milk, such a simple, basic requirement for children. And nobody ever, I would think, ever said to my father's boss, hold on a second, you're that man's employer. Yeah. What are you doing? Not paying him a proper wage that he can buy his own milk for his children.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of society I grew up in. And there was huge class distinction. Huge, it was enormous. And that's when I decided this is wrong, this couldn't be right, and started fighting back. My thoughts first, and then I was reading a lot, thinking a lot.
Yeah.
You know, because the nuns at the time didn't pay much attention to me. I was able to read whatever I liked because they didn't care. I mean, I was a labourer's daughter, so what did I matter?
Yeah.
And then My mother left the family home when I was 14, and I was the eldest of the 6 of us, and she left because she couldn't stand pregnancies any longer, and there was no contraception.
Yeah.
Hence the first political activity I got involved with in the early 70s was the fight for contraception rights, which I think is still not over.
No.
Until non-medical contraceptives are everywhere, freely distributed, free of charge and openly available, and until all other contraceptive needs and reproductive rights are met by the state, that fight is still ongoing.
Absolutely.
You know, and this later, when you were in the middle of like the AIDS crisis, the government didn't even see fit to provide condoms which would have prevented AIDS.
Yeah, and it seems so obvious. I think that's where a lot of my anger comes from, is that a lot of these actions feel really obvious or intuitive to me. Like reading as well, I think is so important, and just having access to those things, which is why I think protesting at a library is an interesting thing to do. I just could not imagine thinking about a group of 6-year-olds and wondering if I should just give them milk, which I can absolutely afford to give them. But could I be fucked? You know, like, will I? Or will I pay their parents a wage so that they can have heating and food and like just somewhere to live? It's so not a question for me, and that's where so much of my anger comes from. I'm like, of course, like condoms would help, like contraception would help. Like I believe it, like, and everybody's right to their own religion, but that is your personal journey, and that should not be something that impacts everybody around you. It's like all of these things feel like no-brainers. I started school at 5, so that was 2003, and I wasn't diagnosed with autism until a year ago, and so I was a strange child, and teachers were like, they're quiet, so it's fine. You know, in that same way they didn't care, and so I was able to read and things like that. But absolutely, I found it interesting there that I was like, yeah, I think at 5 I was in school being like, this is wrong, and I don't know how to put words on it, but I know that this isn't fair. I know the way that you're treating us isn't fair. Even the way that the yard in school was divvied up was, the boys got all of this space for football, and we got the footpath that went around the side of the school, because all we would want to do is talk, which is decided for us. But yeah, I just thought that was interesting that our things kind of mirrored a little bit there, even through time, which is sad in some ways, interesting connection in others, but sad as well. Similar feelings are there.
Yeah, it's surprising the connections and the sameness, even though the details differ.
Yeah.
I think it was Lenin that said all families are dysfunctional, but each of them is dysfunctional in their own unique way.
Yes.
That sort of stuff. And as well, like you have the discrimination in the workplaces as well, naturally, because men are promoted over women just because they're men, not through merit in some companies, some corporations. But I think I was more angry before I studied the system, and I'm less angry since I discovered that it was the system, capitalism, that's to blame for all.
Yeah.
So every anti-capitalist activity, movement, worldwide or here in Cork, then you get involved with that, and you feel more empowered, you feel strong, you feel you're doing something to hit back at the system. And you can make gains. But the surprising thing then you have to learn, the minute you make a gain, you have to continue fighting to hold on to it.
Yes.
Because they keep trying to roll back. They're trying to raise the age that you retire at. They will roll back anything that they think they'll get away with. And they were attempting at one stage, and I wasn't a pensioner at the time, but to take the free travel from pensioners.
Why?
Yeah, exactly. That's crazy. And a thing that people don't realise, the generation of workers that exist at any one time, the people who had those workers and reared them, not just the actual physical mothers that gave birth to them, but all the relatives, all the neighbours that helped to rear them, they were rearing the next generation of workers for like 20 years or whatever it is, handing them over to the state and to corporations, to all the bosses, at no cost to the state. It's a huge contribution to society in the world, and I don't think people realise it.
and they don't value it like in other people, and they also don't value it in themselves. I certainly don't think of myself that way, but actually if I skip a day of work, so much doesn't happen. That even saying that, I'm so uncomfortable because it feels like I'm talking myself up, and I have to try and remind myself that there's value in me. Oh God, that's so uncomfortable. Oh, I've got to shake that off. But yeah, you're right. You're dead right. I actually found I've gotten more angry. The more I've learned that it's systematic, the more I'm like, this is rigged. This isn't just somebody being nasty on an individual level. This is like, everything is actually rigged against me. But I'm hoping that I'll be able to apply it more to action. There's a really short kind of comic strip with a caption, and it's this dog tied to its kennel, and it's the angriest dog in the world. It's approaching a state of such fury that it begins to seize up, and it basically likens the amount of anger in its body to rigor mortis. And sometimes I feel like the angriest dog in the world, where it's actually paralyzing my ability to do anything. I'm not able to convert it into action. But again, like you said, that's where community kind of comes into play, in that you're feeling empowered rather than just tied to a kennel and unable to get out.
I'd imagine, Kel, as well, though, the work you do with young people, especially teenagers, every day you're doing your activism.
Yeah.
By talking to them, opening their minds, letting them see things more clearly, and making them feel good about themselves.
That's absolutely the goal, and I really hope that it does turn out that way. And so much of it is literally just drawing their attention to their own greatness, like that they're just wonderful. And also, like, the school system I could rant about forever. So many times I have schools come in and they've just thrown first years at me, and they're like, do creative writing, and they actually would have preferred to do a drama workshop, and so I change it on the fly. And I'm like, you just didn't even ask these 13-year-olds, like, if we were doing something art related, what would you like to do? It's funny watching that transformation in a young person, where you ask them a question and they're looking at you like, okay, what's the right answer here? And I'm like, no, I want your opinion. Like, well, I want to know what you actually think. It's not going to be wrong. And eventually they get into it, and the stuff that they start making is just, it's actually demoralizing, because I'm like, oh my God, these guys are so talented. I need to up my game. But they're brilliant. So yeah, in a way, that's how I hope I'm making an effect on the world, even if it's just my small world.
But you do realise you're creating the atmosphere to bring that out in them.
Yeah.
You're the one that makes them feel so comfortable and so safe that they can open up to you. That's you, that's down to you. That's hugely valuable. That's worth, my God, that's beyond measure.
Thank you. I hope it's like that. I do hope it's like that. That's the goal.
No, I think it's wonderful to do that with the next generation, because they're going to be the next nurturers and carers.
That's it.
For children and all the rest of it, you know.
I think of it as like, this mess is huge, and I know how overwhelmed I am with it, and I want to not make it so big for who I'm passing it on to, if I can.
Now, these are two questions. Yes. Where will you be in the future? What will your community look like? I don't see anything different in what I do. I'll still be fighting. I'll still be marching. I'll still be going to rallies. But I'll also still be having huge fun. Since I entered my 70s, I'm 73 now, I'm having more fun than I've ever had in my whole life. So I don't think that's going to change. I think it's going to get better.
That's really reassuring to hear. That is brilliant. Okay, great. Whew, that takes some pressure off. Great.
So where will you be in the future?
I hope that I'll be where you are.
Oh, that's so nice.
Sometimes it can feel disheartening to me that I'm never going to be able to stop fighting, that there's no actual end, there's no like closing the book. I think this is my affinity for stories as well, where I'm like, the end, okay, moving on, and that it's not going to work out that way, and that I will be fighting forever. Just I can't sit back and not. But I would like to have fun along the way as well, and enjoy the little victories that we have, and also just to be in places like this with people that are brilliant. and learning from people all of the time. So I hope that my community will just look like this, but like 10 times bigger even, and that it's just more and more people, and that they're as safe as they can be and as happy as they can be. And after that, everything else, I guess, would be a bonus.
Yeah, I'd see the end goal as ending capitalism and replacing it with socialism. Because if you end capitalism, you won't be producing any product or service for profit. Yeah. It would be all for human need. And we would decide what we need. Yeah.
I am desperately in love with Ursula Le Guin. She was a science fiction writer, and she wrote fantasy as well, but she won an award, and it just totally went off on capitalism. She's just like, she was super anti. I keep talking about her in the present tense because I don't want her to be dead. But
her ideas won't die.
Her ideas won't die. But she just spoke about capitalism. She was like, at one point in time, we thought that the divine right of kings was absolute and that could never change, and that was just how life was always going to be. And sometimes it feels like capitalism. It's like, how do you break something that is so just ingrained everywhere, and even in how I think or how I think about myself, even. The divine right of kings isn't something that we even think about anymore, and that one day we can absolutely work towards that.
Yeah. I would like to see communities all over the world, this has to be global, with no profit for anything and no private property. And people, from the day you're born until the day you die, you should be entitled to a roof over your head. There should be no struggling, everyone producing together. And if you didn't have to fund the billionaires, well, there would be no need for the extra production. You'd have huge leisure time, because the number of hours that workers work in order to pay for the billionaires is far more than half your day's work, far more.
Yeah.
In third world, that would be much higher, of course, and the standard of living that they live under is absolutely barbaric, and all the cruelty and the viciousness would be gone out of the system.
It's so possible. Like, we could do it tomorrow if all the billionaires in the world were just like, you're right, here you go, and we just distributed it. We could do it tomorrow.
That'd be awesome.
It would be. I would love it so. I would love it so much. But yeah, I think that's true. That the cruelty is built into the system for such a small type of person who it benefits.
It can be done, but they're not. The realization is not going to hit those billionaires and the people at the top. And it was what James Connolly said about, the Irish government, he said it applies to all governments. They are but committees of the rich. That's what they are, committees deciding how to extract more and more from us and what they'll get away with. And that's how they do their budget. That's how they did the one the other day. And that's how they'll always act. They're committees of the rich. It wouldn't even matter if every single TD in the Dáil was a socialist TD. They cannot overcome the system, capitalism. So, and anyway, half the TDs in the Dáil are landlords. Yeah. So a lot of the housing situation is down to that as well.
Yeah, I joke with my friends sometimes, and sometimes it's not a joke, that we should bring back the guillotine. Just a little bit, just leave it outside the Dáil, just to remind them. It's just like
the far right did that with a note.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. See, that's where you have to be careful. Sometimes the joke is not taken as a joke, and I promise I am joking, but that it is that level of sometimes I do just want to bring them through where I work or the people that I work with. I'd love, if I could, sometimes to just transfer how I am feeling on a given day when I am in immense pain and I can't get access to healthcare, or to the therapy that I need, or when my family members, one of them is quite ill at the moment and can't get the healthcare that she needs. I would love to just give that to them. Like, if I was able to just take that out of myself and give that to them, and I'm like, you experience that for 1 week. That's 1 week of my life that I have been living for 25 years.
Yeah.
Do you mind, adjusting, please? I would love to know what it would take to get the message across once and for all.
Yeah, it's one of those things. The campaign for public health care and for a 32 county health service as well, because during COVID there was cross-border cooperation, and the minute the last lockdown ended, end of cooperation, which didn't make sense at all. Like, I have a friend who's hung up on private health insurance, and I just think it's it's not the road to go down. You're better off marching on the streets and going on the rallies and fighting for a proper community service, a public service.
Yeah.
And healthcare should not be budgeted for. If you go to the door of the hospital, you need treatment or you need to be taken care of. The HSE should not be saying to people, we ran out of budget money, we have no money, we can't treat you, so go home and die.
Yeah.
And that seems to be the way it is, because people are on waiting lists and they die while they're on the waiting list for simple things. And I think it's the age group that you work with, Kel, the absolute disgrace at the moment is the children with spina bifida, the teenagers that have grown like 10 years ago, they were diagnosed, their spines are like twisting and getting worse, and they're still waiting for their operation.
Yeah.
Like we're a first world country supposedly, and the HSE cannot deal with that kind of, and that's only one category that we know of. There are lots of others, and they just, it's non-existent.
Yeah, and it's absolute. And then they show up before the surgery and they're told, actually, you're very complicated.
That's right.
We can't handle that. Would you mind going abroad?
Yeah.
So, but it's the one thing that we can guarantee is going to happen to all of us is that we're going to end up sick.
That's right.
At some stage. So I don't understand why we don't invest in it
for the future.
Because it's going to happen. It is absolutely going to happen to everybody. I 100% have sympathy for like healthcare workers, because I can't even imagine working under the conditions that they do. But at the same time, like the things that I've witnessed happen, because I suppose people are on 12, 18-hour shifts and being paid €2 an hour. But like that there's urine on the floor, or that that there's just the stuff that I witnessed my grandfather have to go through at the end of his life, where he wouldn't be fed for a day because nobody had checked on him, and he can't get out of the bed. And I have sympathy at the same time, but like the people, when you get into the hospital finally, then the care isn't properly there, or being lied to like constantly about things. And it's just eating itself. It's just consuming itself.
And it's probably no different in your sphere in the line of education, where you have to fight for the proper funding.
For everything.
Yeah.
For absolutely everything. And a lot of the application forms are like, we're all about equality, diversity and inclusion, and then we're like, cool, we would like to make this building wheelchair accessible because it's an old building. And they're like, okay, cool. Great, put that down, we're definitely going to fund that. And then they don't, and then we're like, okay. And then they come back and they're like, you don't have a lot of disabled people coming to your building. And we're like, yeah.
Isn't one enough?
We don't. Also, check the box if you have like one person of colour, if you have one child who is transgender, great. If you have one, but at the same time, they don't want to fund any of the projects that you put on for people at all, ever. You know who we've gotten more money out of is fundamentalist Christians in America. We're working with children. They're like, amazing, great. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'm like, I'm not going to tell you that all of these children are LGBT. Just that they're young people, and we'll send you pictures of their art. And they're delighted. They're like, here's like €50,000. We're like, great. But our own arts council, I could go on.
We kind of find the same in the poetry world. It's very, very hard to get funding. Very, very hard. But do you find with the young people when you work with them, especially in creative writing, I know you do other stuff as well with them, but they can express their emotions. It's like a release.
Yeah, hugely. The things as well that there's like teenagers, they're exploring who they are, and that is massive for them, and especially in a group. They're finding that sense of belonging in a group as well, and the encouragement that you find there's no nastiness ever. It's always just a really accepting, lovely place, because you've got the older kind of kids who are used to how things work, and so they're really encouraging the younger, and then the youngers are looking up to the 18-year-olds like, oh my god, I can't wait to be you. But absolute writing is huge, and like sometimes that's quite heavy. The things that some of the young people are processing through their writing is unbelievable, but so invaluable, and so many of them I've sent towards different places like Good Day Cork, or like Badly Made Books sometimes, and they publish in them, and they're just, that validation is so invaluable as well. But if they went to the Arts Council, say, which I don't understand either. I don't understand why in college you can't apply for funding to do a project.
Yeah.
Or if you're under the age of 18, if you're like with I guess if you have an adult to take the money or whatever, but that you can't apply. But that there's just no money for them to make what they want to make. Or if they get the funding, there's no space for them. That drives me crazy, that there's no free spaces for a teenager to hang out in anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they're lucky to have you is all I can say. You're
Thank you.
students.
I hope so.
Well, Kel, it was a pleasure speaking to you.
Lovely.
Absolute pleasure. I love what you do.
I love what you do, and I'm
Thank you.
so I'm now really looking forward to being 73.
Good.
I cannot wait. I cannot wait. But yeah, it's great. I'm so glad that
Me too. Yeah.
to have had this conversation. So thank you so much.
Thank you too.
Thank you. And I need to read some of your poetry, please.
Thanks to Margaret O'Regan and Kel Menton for sharing their thoughts and experiences. Wild Ones Conference is made possible with generous support from Vision Community Support Services and SICAP Cork City Partnership. Recording and post-production by Kimaya Tegtmeyer with music from Justin Grounds. Joanna Dukipati is the event producer and founder of Good Day Cork. Find Good Day Cork on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, or their website gooddaycork.com for more information, content, and events.